Thank you for Dorie for showing up today. I'm going to give a little brief introduction to her. Dorie is an award-winning and published photographer in the Northern Virginia and Washington, D.C. metropolitan area. Dorie is a sought-out speaker and educator in the areas of the business photography, marketing of small businesses, and social media for photographers. She also coaches um, small businesses owners and creates courses, webinars, and online experiences and help them grow their audiences, market, and sell. Dorie has been work has been featured on the covers and inside of the Washington Parenting Magazine, Washington Family Magazine, Ladies Home Journal, Women's Day Magazine, and has a featured guest on Fox 5 DC morning programs. She is also a proud member of the Professional Photographers of America and holds a photography craftsman's degree awarded to photographers who have spent their time being teachers and mentors dedicated in moving the industry forward. So let's all please welcome our guest, Dorie Howell, today. All right.
She's muted.
Yep. All right.
There we
go. Jeremy, good job reading that bio.
Oh, thank you. So yeah, let's just jump on right in. Dorie, tell us a little bit about your history, about your life, how you came into being a photographer. Let's start it there.
Well, I started professional photography about 13 years ago, and I entered my journey very similar to so many people. It's a very common story. I had a baby. I liked taking pictures. I was pretty good at it. For my first Mother's Day, my husband brought me my first DSLR, and it just kind of went from there. But before that, I was a creative. I'm a classically trained opera singer. I was always doing something creative, but I was also always doing something entrepreneurial. So even when I was singing, I was never one of these people that would just show up and sing for free. So if I was going to take my time and my energy and my talent and my education, I needed to get paid for that because I needed to be compensated for the time and the energy that I was spent away from my family. So I never really got stuck in the taking a lot of pictures for free or just doing it for a few dollars. I jumped in pretty much right away, charging what some would consider a decent rate for what I was doing at the time. So so that was about 13 years ago. And since then, done lots of sessions, photographed lots of people, lots of beautiful babies. And then about 5 years ago, started on my education journey. Operated a membership site for photographers, not specifically to learn how to shoot, but how to make money with their business and with their camera. And then, the pandemic hit, and I think everyone felt the slap of that in a very real way. I was not immune to that with my studio at all. I think that 18 months ago, I was dealing with my mother's death. I was dealing with the onset of a pandemic. And because I was helping my family, my studio had actually been closed for a couple months. And I was just thinking about reopening it when March happened in our area. And March 12th is when everything shut down in our area. And that was the day after my mom died. That was all of a sudden, my mom passes, my daughter's home from school, I'm becoming a homeschool mom, I want to open my studio, but I'm dealing with all these emotions and everything like that. And then I want to open my studio, but nobody's even leaving their house at that point in time. So how do you do that? So it took about 18 months. And so a few months ago, I actually went ahead and officially reopened. And I'm finding that it's a brand new world. And I love the fact that I can pretty much recreate my business into what I want it to be at this point in time. I was known as a newborn photographer, and I still love doing newborns, but I wanted to transition more into family portraits and branding portraiture. And having that break of the pandemic that the whole world has felt gave the perfect time for me to pivot into concentrating on something else. So that's what I've been doing. And it's been a wild adventure for sure.
I mean, that's a snowball effect right there. I mean,
yeah.
All the things that happen just, with your mother, your family, and then just transitioning, wanting to get back into actually more shooting and stuff. I mean, so let's talk about that a little bit, just getting back into work. What has that experience been like over the last 18 to 20 months?
Well, it hasn't taken 18 to 20 months because I didn't actively run my studio for 18 to 20 months. I mean, there was people would inquire and we would go back and forth, but unless they had something that was very specific that they wanted me for, I wasn't out there actively marketing because honestly, I really didn't know how. Even though people say, oh, family is more important now than everything else, and people are together with their people that they love, you know, it's still in my particular circle, people still weren't necessarily leaving their homes. A photo shoot was not something that was on the horizon for them in any way, shape, or form. So really, it's only been in the past couple months, and restarting actually was easier than I imagined because I kept up a social media presence during the pandemic, and especially when I went out on my own and I left my previous job. I really kicked up my social media. So that was something that people were seeing. I was posting old images. I was posting behind the scenes. I was posting what I was working on. And I have to say that in this case with my fall session, my email list saved me, and that I was able to book very few sessions, but with clients that are going to probably break my sales records from anything I've done in the past.
That's fantastic.
Because they're ready to go. They're ready to go. But it was like social media, that's fine and that's fun to look at, but it wasn't really getting me bookings. Word of mouth, contacting previous clients, offering old galleries and that type of thing. Those were okay, but it was really just my email list. And I need to change this in the new year. This is kind of my resolution of being able to change this coming up in the new year. But I really only emailed my list quarterly. But because I had developed good relationships with people that I'd worked with in the past, they were actively reading my emails. They were wanting to know how I was doing after my mom passed away. They were wanting to know how business was doing. They were looking at how I was changing, but all of that happened in my email. It didn't happen in social media. It didn't happen in the comment section or anything like that. So a lot of it has been what people wouldn't see. It's been more private, but it's been great. It's been great.
So when we're talking about the email list, this is obviously from like previous customers, people who have signed up to just read your newsletter?
Yeah. Yes.
That's awesome. I've never, like you hear about like these cases where, a newsletter is really like engaging and stuff like that, but people always tend like, well, social media is where I should go.
Yeah.
I really think creating these personalized stories, connects you deeper to those, those customers. And if they already are your fan base, you could say, if they already engaged with you, that's an incredible way to connect with them. And then you're already giving them, whatever type of promotion, offers, and just letting them know that you're back and you're working. And I think that's an incredible way to do it with newsletters.
Yeah, the newsletters, I've always kind of had the attitude that, your money's in your list. And see, I just want to turn my phone down really quick.
Okay.
So stop beeping. The money's in the list. And the thing is that most people that are on my list are people that I have interacted with in some way in person. And that makes more of an impression with me than it has been just on social media. When people interact with me, I know my personality is one that I can make people feel comfortable. I can make people feel loved. I can make them feel like they're part of my family very easily and very quickly. So if they're on my list, I know pretty much that we've had some sort of in-person interaction at some point in time. They may not have hired me, but mostly there's been something that has happened. Either I've met them at a networking event or a new mother event or something, so that we've connected in a real way versus just seeing bits and snippets and a very curated view of what I put out on social media.
Yeah, and I totally understand that, and we'll get into some social media talk in a moment. So let's talk about like you said getting back into it. You kind of pivoted some of the stuff that you were doing, like if your strategy was before you were interested in newborns, now you're gravitating towards maybe even branding and stuff like that. What made you make those decisions?
Can I be really, really honest?
Yeah, let's be honest.
I was tired of getting peed on. I mean, that's about as real as you're going to get from a newborn photographer wanting to get out of the newborn photography. There's a couple of reasons. One is 3-hour sessions were no longer something that I'm no longer interested in doing on the regular.
Mm.
It's a lot of time, it's a lot of prep, it's a lot of cleanup, it's a lot of work, and then and it's a lot of energy. I think I have such great respect for in-home newborn photographers who are going to people's homes, because that's so much energy. Not only are you dealing with your subject, which is unpredictable at best, even if you have a great workflow and everything like that, every baby is different. You're in a different environment that you've never been in before. And then you have people watching what you're doing because you're handling their brand new baby. And that's a lot of energy expended. I would get home, and I think a lot of newborn photographers could relate to this. I would be spent, completely spent. And so when I was looking at this, I'm like, I'm just really not interested in doing this anymore. And originally I was going to completely cut them out. But then I'm like, well, I'm not completely opposed to doing them. It's just not the only thing that I want to do. So I'll do, when people call me and they ask for newborns, I adjusted some pricing to make it a little bit of a better incentive for me to do. And if they hire me for my pricing, I'll absolutely do it. And I can offer them in studio or at their location. So it's a little bit, it has to work for both parties. They have to see the value in what they're getting. And I have to feel like I'm being compensated well for not only my time, but also the emotional energy that I'm expending during that session itself.
No, I totally understand that. I had newborn photos of my son maybe 2 or 3 years ago, and just watching how you have to ornate the kid to be in a certain pose and stuff like that. I can see that being time consuming and exhausting just for the photographer itself. You got to make it a very the environment has to be perfect.
Yes.
And that can go a long way, especially for newborns. So I understand the transition. That makes total sense.
Yeah.
So, what other types of challenges are you seeing very common lately? Just in your own business or photographers around the world, what are you seeing right now?
I think some people, once mask mandates happened and all that kind of stuff, they're ready to jump out there, leave the house, and just go on as life as usual. But I have to be honest, from what I've experienced, that hasn't been the case with everyone. And it hasn't been the case with a lot of people. So, I've changed some wording on my website. I've changed some wording in my communication to try, and I think safety is a really big thing that you need to make your clients feel like they are in good hands and that they're working with someone who has thought of all the ways that they can be safe, whether that outlining your mask policy of when you work with a mask and when you won't work with a mask. I am very free about sharing my vaccination status. I don't have a problem telling people my vaccination status. I know other people hold that really close to their chest. To me, I don't care. It's not a big deal. So I post and I communicate that to people for whatever that's worth. But I think a concentrated addressing the safety concerns head on and bringing it to the surface of how you work, how you're going to keep everybody safe, the precautions that you take, I think is super, super important now, because people are concerned about that. Whether they put that in the context of a portrait session itself, they may not put the 2 and 2 together, but once you raise that flag, then I think they appreciate knowing, oh, I'm glad she told me that. That makes me feel better. So that is one thing that I definitely changed is just concentrating more in my communication and that type of thing on their safety and how I'm keeping everyone safe across the board.
Now, when you're talking about safety, are you doing that on a one-to-one consultation style, or are you putting that on your website? How are you communicating this? So just in case someone is worried about that, how do you do that?
I think I do have something on my website about it somewhere of masking and gloves and that kind of stuff. But I have very open, frank conversations with my clients as soon as they inquire. So maybe they're not maybe they're not a client yet, but they've sent me the inquiry form. I've responded, and I want to talk to them. And I know this is kind of a sticking point of people like, I can't get anybody on the phone, all that kind of stuff. And I handle it in a very casual way. The way that I present the phone call is like, hey, you have questions, I have questions, and it's just a quick 15-minute phone call to make sure that we're on the same page of whether working together makes sense for both of us. And if I can't get them on the phone, then what I say is, hey, you're busy. I totally understand that. Here's 5 or 6 bullet points that you probably want to know about my sessions, whether that be pricing, location, timing, schedule, whatever, so that I give them enough information that gets them interested and lets them know whether they're going to be a good fit for me or not. And then we have the conversation. But I speak to every client that I have on the phone in one way or the other before I meet them for the session. Now, I don't do in-person consultations. I never really did, but I do have a consultation process that I think is very, very important. And I have steps that I go through that the boxes all need to be ticked on to make sure that I've gotten all the information I need so that I can exceed their expectations in the finished results.
Okay. So, we're talking about just all the things going on, modifications to our businesses for safety purposes. What other types of changes have you seen just in the last 5 years? I mean, we're talking about like social media, just being able to market yourself. What's happening in the photography world? Let's talk about that.
So much. So I think, oh gosh, where do I even start, Jeremy? That was like a huge question.
I know, it's so big. I mean, because it can go anywhere, and that's really what, Yeah.
So social media, let's talk about
that.
Okay, so 5 years ago, we basically had Facebook and we had the inklings of Instagram, all right? And now we have Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Pinterest, LinkedIn, so many other social media channels. So as a part of that, it's very easy to become very overwhelmed about where you want to spend your time and where you should be spending your time. So my thought when I'm coaching with photographers and talking with them, like, pick a primary and a secondary and go from there. And I think that Facebook is great for older generations or people who need to be on Facebook because they either want to learn something or they want to connect specifically to someone, whether that be an alumni group from college, a photography group, you have your private family groups, those types of things for Facebook. Instagram is where you can go out and explore and find so many other things that are out there. And they have just so many different ways to use their platform that everybody can usually find something that they like to do. And so also, like, we didn't have all these influencers 5 years ago, and we didn't have algorithms 5 years ago. 5 years ago, I don't know, but like, when we first got on Facebook, mine was like 14, 15 years ago, like my feed actually showed me everything in chronological order. Imagine how nice that was, right? And then as time has gone by, more and more they're showing us what they think they want us to, like, that we want to see, versus maybe just like, I know I don't interact with my aunt's like page that often, but I would still like to see it. But because I don't interact with it, they don't show it to me and I have to go search it out, which is irritating.
You start getting the common question, didn't you see that photo I posted?
Yeah, right? Like you see them at the family picnic and you haven't seen them in 2 years, and then, because everybody's been inside and all of a sudden you have a family reunion and then they want to know, like, well, I posted about this on my Facebook page. Didn't you see it? I'm like, no, dude, I don't see anything on Facebook. unless I'm actively seeking it out. So for me, for what I do in coaching photographers and with my photography business, I've chosen to spend most of my time now on Instagram. And whether that's being reels, doing a carousel, sharing a quote, sharing an image, that type of thing, the way that platform is working for the people that I want to reach is working very well. Facebook still has its place. It's still the biggest social media platform, but I think you have to remember how people use it. And then make sure that you're fitting into that. And, I think just with social media, as a side note, when social media when the platforms tell you what they want on their platform and what they're going to show on their platform, Instagram and video, let's just all say it together. Instagram wants video. It's important that you feed the algorithm animal what it wants.
Yeah, and I think that's one thing I saw this last weekend. is very on point of what's happening right now. A current customer of ours has over like 20,000 followers on Instagram, but she's not seeing the same results that she saw maybe 2 years ago. And she's like, should I just start Instagram all over with a new account? And I'm like, no, that's like, no, that's not. But the problem is she's stuck in the mindset of like, I just do photos.
Yep.
So as for photographers, are they having to learn new skill sets? And how important is that for their business?
I think that is so very, very, very important. If you are a photographer and you're sitting back, say, I've been doing this for the same way for 10 years, and I'm going to do it this way. And then you start to realize that what you've been doing for 10 years isn't working anymore. You are going to have to adapt. And the thing is, that's not new. You know, if you, a couple of weeks ago, my family and I, we went to Hershey, Pennsylvania. We went to Hershey Park, and then we toured the Hershey Museum that talks about the Hershey story and how he ended up in the middle of nowhere. And it gives a guide of all, like the whole advertising, the Hershey candy bar and the Hershey product, the whole timeline of that. And it was very interesting because even companies like that, like a big company like Hershey or Johnson & Johnson or that type of thing, advertising and marketing changes every decade, and now even much, much sooner, every year or two. You have to adapt. And here's the thing, I think Jeremy, we talked about this last time we spoke, was the fact that I'm getting older. I understand that I'm getting older, but my client that I want to reach is staying the same age. So if I want to reach 28 to 35-year-olds who want to take newborn pictures, I need to understand that their marketing, what appeals to them in their marketing is not quite, dare I say, but 20 years, I was there 20 years ago.
Yeah.
So I have to be up to date on what they want to see, what they want to absorb. And the reason why, for example, Instagram tells you that they're a video platform, not a photo sharing platform anymore, is because they know they have all the research and have all the user data. The video is what's getting people to stay on their platform. That's what people are absorbing.
Yeah, and the longer they can stay on there, the more satisfied they are. That's why you start seeing more, again, less people that you normally would see, like your friends and family. You're starting to see more influence-based people. So you might see photographers that you normally wouldn't see, or even just influencers in general. And for photographers who don't want to do video, what can they do to alleviate that? If they want to stay, like you say, connected to their the base, because for me it's the same thing. Like my kids, I'm watching my kids grow up. Apparently they don't teach cursive anymore, and we all had to learn that. They don't teach that anymore in schools. So but they also think everything is touchscreen. They're just adapted to that, and this is how they are.
They like walk up to every TV and like try and touch it.
Yeah, they just poke at every single thing they possibly can. So this is how they've been marketed to. So they assume every screen is touchable. So eventually, how they're being marketed to, they assume everyone's going to be doing that. So they assume that you have video. Like, oh, I didn't see this photographer's behind the scenes session. I didn't see what it's like to work with them. I've only seen photos. So to them, it starts to become blinders because they're only used to this one style.
And here's the thing, and this is something that I've been diving into recently, because I need to make some changes in my social media. Because for a while, for the past year or so, past 9 months, I've been kind of doing the same thing. People are used to seeing the same thing when they go to my account. They're used to seeing a quote or two every week. They're used to seeing a carousel or two. They're used to seeing this. And when I have energy, they're used to seeing some ridiculous reels that I put together. But the idea is that once people get used to seeing all those things, you have to come up with something that's going to stop them and make them re-examine, like, oh, this looks a little bit different. So all of that has to go into any of your marketing, and you have to have that philosophy. And it doesn't necessarily just apply to your social media. So for example, if you send out a newsletter every month faithfully, and it's looked the same and basically sounded the same for the past 6 times, people are going to pretty much know exactly what they're going to get when they open up that newsletter.
Yeah.
But if you change it up, if you do something a little bit different, if you look at it from a different perspective, highlight something different, say something a different way, to basically stop the scroll,
Hmm.
that's what you need to have to do. And so you have to keep evolving.
Yeah.
So I have a resource here. Is it okay if I share it with people who are on this call? I'll just pop it in the
Absolutely.
chat. So
Absolutely.
if you're a photographer and you struggle with the whole video side of things, go ahead and click on that link. It's just harmonyhangout.com/video. I put this together a few months ago, and of course, certain things with Instagram has changed,
Hmm.
but this is a really basic idea of like how you can show off your business on social media and show things that people would like to see, like from behind the scenes to doing hyperlapses of setups, how to make those videos, what equipment I use, that
Hmm.
type of thing. So if you guys are interested in that, that's available for you.
That's a great
Right there.
resource. I love that. And I'm going to throw one in there too, just in case.
Yeah.
If you are completely novice to video production, I wrote an article about video marketing 101. So I'm going to
Love
throw that in there, and it just talks about the tools and resources that you have that are available. And yeah, take advantage of the stuff that's out there. That's the big important thing. Education.
Yeah.
Keep yourself on the toes of all the stuff happening, because it's all rapidly changing. I
Yeah.
mean, let's talk about just in a year, Instagram went from being focused on IGTV to now that being basically non-existent. They've
It's
replaced
just IG video,
Yeah.
IG video.
Just
Any
IG video.
over a minute, any video over a
Mhm.
minute pops in the same category. Yep.
And then they're really focused on reels because they're seeing that there's an appetite for quick, digestible stuff. That's why, like you said, stop the scroll. People are scrolling so fast that I bet data, it used to say, you had 3 seconds to impress someone. It's probably microseconds at this point,
Yeah.
because people flip through things so fast now.
Yeah, they do.
It's
They
insane.
totally do. And another thing too is that when you're talking about wanting to reach your market, with social media, we're going back kind of to the email thing. And Jeremy, you wrote a really good article about the new Apple iOS updates when it comes to email, to make sure that how do you know now if people are actually opening their emails?
Hmm.
Because you can't rely on the analytic reports if people are using, Apple devices.
Yeah.
Because it's not there. So in every email that I send out, I have 1 or 2 things. And if I see several people who are on my email list here, thanks for joining us, guys. In every email, I put something that's clickable, because the only way that I know for sure that someone is opening my emails and reading my emails is if they click on something.
Hmm.
And that's because what has happened, for those of you who aren't familiar with, in a nutshell, is Apple, with their privacy rules, which I don't think they're for private. Basically, anytime you use their platform to read an email, or your users have used their platform to read an email, what they are doing is basically opening the email for them,
Hmm.
and then delivering it so that way marketers can't go back and figure out where, that those emails were opened by actually the person who it was supposed to be opened by. So yeah, I knew you had it out there, those privacy updates.
Yes.
So that's another thing that we have to be aware of. If you have a really, really big email list and you were getting maybe a 25 to 30% open rate a couple months ago, and now all of a sudden you're seeing maybe a 40 to 55% open rate, and you're thinking, oh my gosh, my emails are so great, everybody's opening them now. That's not what's happening. Apple's opening them for your recipient, but that doesn't mean your recipient is opening them. So the only way you know if people are going to really absorb your content is if they actually have to actively click on something, which getting people to click in the body of an email is hard.
Yes.
It is not easy to do. People will absorb the content very easily, but to actually take the step of like clicking over to something else, that's challenging. So not only do we have social media changes happening, we have email updates happening. And unfortunately, as a small business owner, it's our job to at least kind of know these things are going on. And don't even get me started on Facebook ads or anything like that. But yeah, it's a very much a changing market.
Hmm.
And it's something that if you want your efforts to actually result from getting some more money in your pocket, which we all do, right? You have to stay on top of those trends and those changes.
Especially if there is a growing just demand with iPhones are huge. They're saying now over the world over 45% of the world has an iPhone, and
Mhm.
you're like, oh, it's not 50. Well, 45 is still a huge margin, but guess what, if
Right.
45% of that is now opting into these things that sound scary on their phone, like, hey, we want to protect your data from Facebook or from mail, we're seeing results of 99% of people actually opting into those. So that 43% of the world, that's all that market's gone. So they're blind to advertisements. They're blind to open rates and data like that. So these are things that people should be aware of when, like, hey, why is this ad not working or something like that? It might be working. You're just not getting that data anymore.
Right. Well, here's the thing. So I recently jumped the ship over to the dark side. I was a Samsung all my life. I did Samsungs, but due to the fact, I think everybody understands this. My dad's 83 years old. He has an iPhone and he doesn't necessarily understand texting versus messaging.
Hmm.
So when he sends me a message, it could be through messaging. Well,
Hmm.
then I would get it on my iPad, but I may not see it till hours later. Well, when
Hmm.
you're dealing with your 83-year-old dad, you kind of want, and he lives alone, you kind of want him to like be able, you want to get
To
his
reach you.
message right away,
Yeah.
right? And so I finally told my husband, I said, I'm sorry to do it, but just for this purpose alone, just for family communication, I think I'm going to have an iPhone. Otherwise, I probably would have stuck with a Samsung. But what I
Hmm.
wanted to say is that because now I do have the iPhone and I see these messages pop up, and I think the way that they're worded is really, really poor because people say, oh, yeah, I don't want to be tracked. I
Hmm.
don't want to do, none of that. That sounds horrible. Opt me out of this.
Hmm.
Well, then there's kind of a thought in your brain, well, if I opt out of this, then that means I'm not going to see as many ads,
Correct.
right? So there are people making that connection. They're not understanding that you're going to see just as many ads, if not, because more and more ads are popping up. You're going to see all these ads pop in, but they're going to be for products that you never even would have any interest in
Less
at
curated. Hmm.
all. So I am of the philosophy that I say, yeah, track me, because if I'm going to see ads, I want them to be curated to what they think I might be interested in.
Hmm.
And I noticed a very, very interesting thing about a month ago. And I did for my Tuesday email that I send out to people, it's a no sales email. It's just like, here's what I'm noticing in the industry. And I might have done a blog post about this where I really went in and all the photographer ads that I saw, and I was seeing a lot for
Hmm.
a long time. I would go in and see what location they were in.
Okay.
And I gotta find this somewhere. And I was noticing that more than I would do, say 20 ads a day. I would see 20 ads. And then only 17, or out of 20 ads, 17 of them were not in my geographic area. And when I say not in my geographic area, I'm saying they'd be in California or Oregon. I'm outside of Washington, D.C.
Hmm.
And as good as those photographers are, I wasn't going to hire them for a mini session.
Yeah.
So I would say, here, I'm gonna find this while we're on the phone, while we're on this call, my thing. But anyway, some photographers I contacted and I said, hey, just so you know, your targeting seems a little bit off to me.
Hmm.
I would want to know because we all have limited budgets and we don't want to waste our money.
Yeah.
But I remember that I think I saw 23 ads one day. Only 18 of them were not in my area. Only 5 of them were in my area. And then I listed different problems with the ads. There were no call to action. There was nothing, or it was just an ad that said click here and it would just go to an Instagram page, but it wouldn't tell anybody what to do when they got there, or that type of thing. But the big thing that caught me was the location, how the location tracking was so off
Hmm.
for all these photographers. And that's what happens when people are opting out of all these ads. They just start seeing ads from wherever
It's all sorted. Yeah.
wherever they get placed.
Hmm.
wherever Facebook decides or Instagram decides to put them.
I know everyone was scared, like especially like 5, 6 years ago, people are like, I clicked on this thing on Amazon and all of a sudden it's haunting me. I used to say it's like, ads haunt people, right? Like ghosts.
Right.
Like the product I was looking at, oh, now there's an offer attached to it.
Right.
But that was actually, it's there for a reason to be curated for you.
Absolutely. So, those are all things that you need to make sure that they're working and your money is being used in the way that you want it to be used, because we all have limited budgets, limited time, with really high expectations of anything that we put out into the world. And the only way that we're going to meet those high expectations is if we're paying attention to some of the details in some of these other areas.
Yep. So
I did a carousel on this. I'm looking for this now. It's driving me crazy.
Well, since we're already kind of talking about tech in general, let's talk about, you got a new phone. What do you think of the new iPhone? What do you like it? You had to get it for your dad, but do you like it?
Yeah, I like it.
Okay.
I have to say, the first thing I noticed right away was the front facing camera was just so pretty. I'm like, my skin is not that smooth in real life at all. And I just, it looked really good. And the fact is that when they make apps, like Instagram is making apps with all these new programs where you can get reels, you can do music, you can do special effects, you can do all this stuff. They're not releasing it to anybody first except iPhone. And then the Samsung and everybody else has to wait until they modify it and get the kinks out. Then they release it to the rest of the to the platform. So I have found this now. I got the big one because I'm old and my eyes are bad and, full disclosure. So I wanted the biggest screen that they could get. And I have the type set to almost as big as it can go, but having that, because otherwise I was doing stuff on my iPad because I really needed that extra real estate. And I could not fathom how people were putting together these programs and editing and doing all this stuff on an iPhone. I'm like, isn't it just too small? No, my eyes are just old and bad. And so now I can do more on this. I can see it easier. It's something that has been really great. So just like with any new kind of technology, I'm a techie girl. I love tech. So I am a bit enamored by it. It's heavier, it's a little bit bigger, but for my social media and that type of thing, it's been really good.
What type of camera are you using right now when you shoot?
When I shoot, I still have I have a Canon 5D Mark III and a 5D Mark II. I have a Canon 6D Mark II that I use for some of my video stuff, but what you're watching me on today is a Sony A7 III.
Ah, okay. I thought your quality looked really good. I was like, ooh.
Yeah, it's sharp. It's sometimes a little too sharp, but I haven't shot with this yet because I haven't done really any experimental sessions that I want to try out with a new camera. My Canons are tried and true. I know how to work them. My next camera purchase will probably be a mirrorless camera. But so far my DSLR, they do what they do what I need them to do.
Still clicking.
Yeah, they're still clicking. And then I'm a PC user, so all of this is done through a PC. My husband custom builds it for me, and I just say, hey, I need new memory or that kind of stuff. It's handy having in-house tech. But I have a dual monitor system here, so I have one here, one on the other side. My camera's in the middle, about halfway down, because I didn't want it to be looking at me from above. And then I have a ring light right up there. And then I have a bank of windows here that, depending on the time of day, I either open or close those curtains.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so it works out good. Okay, so I'm going to go back to this because I found this information that I think is really
go.
Really thick. Okay, so I did a carousel ad on this, and if you guys are on my Instagram, you can scroll down. It's in the navy blue things. Out of 23 ads, 17 ads did not have a clear call to action. 18 of them were not in my area. 15 of them just linked to an IG page with no further instructions of what to do when I got there. 2 had typos and 1 had a bad link. So specifically for those 15 that were just linked to an IG page with no call to action or no specificity in the ad, I'm like, someone's teaching that somewhere. Like that's being taught, because I saw that so much. But so 75% of the ads that I saw from people were not going to be effective in any way, shape, or form. It just wasn't going to happen. So that's why when we go back to, we're talking about being up to date on systems and processes and changes within Facebook, especially with ads, all of that stuff. If you're not going to outsource it, you need to make sure you dive in and really understand how it works, and not just try and learn the top, like surface level of things, because you'll run like these photographers did and have ads that won't work.
And since we're speaking about advertising and marketing, so what are you doing right now to connect to leads and customers? Are you doing advertisements? What are you doing?
I do not do paid ads for my photography business itself. I have done them in the past when Facebook ads were a little bit easier to navigate, when they weren't quite so complicated. I know how to do ads. I do them for my coaching and that type of thing, but I don't still do them for my business. So I just want to talk to people, and I want people to, I'm at a point in my career, and look, thankfully, the people who hire me pay me a lot of money to do what I do. And so that means I don't need to talk to as many people. My first sale out of the gate after pandemic was over $12,000.
Wow.
And those are the type of numbers that I like, and those are the type of the clientele that I deal with, and I know how to manage and deal with. That they're happy, I'm not feeling rushed, I'm not feeling stressed, I can serve them very, very well. So yeah, that's how my business runs. And I know a lot of people are not in the same boat. So you have to do marketing, you have to get your name out there.
Would you recommend ads for maybe someone starting?
If you know how to do it, but here's the thing, a couple weeks ago, Facebook took out one of their targeting features in the ads management. I know this is really nitty gritty, but it used to be that you could really highlight where you wanted these ads to go. And they used to be a little check mark that said you could opt out of that, and then Facebook would decide for you.
Figure it out, yeah. Where
they wanted these ads to go. I wish I could remember the exact name of this thing. Well, now they just eliminated that option altogether. So unless you have a list of people that you specifically want your ad to go to, like you upload your email list or that type of thing, unless you're doing, and you want to reach very specific people in a very specific geographic area, I think Facebook ads are kind of dangerous right now until they bring back the control of you being able to decide exactly where they need to go.
Especially for localization. Like, yes, I think that's
absolutely.
a big deal. Because again, you run into the problem that you saw with the other photographers that were, why am I getting a California photographer when I'm on the East Coast advertised to me? That's when you start running that problem versus the geocentric ones where it's like someone within 30 miles or something like that.
Right. And like I said, I wish I could remember the name of it, but it was just a little checkbox that it used to be unchecked so that you could really dial down in the specifics of your targeting. And you would check it if you didn't care. Like, so for example, if I'm advertising my photography business, that's very local, that's very specific. I want it to go and be seen by very, very specific people. So that is something that I can't really do as specifically anymore, right? For my coaching business, if I'm going to send an ad to photographers in the United States, it doesn't matter as much because it doesn't matter where they're located. So when I'm looking at it, it kind of depends on who you want to reach and for what purpose. So Facebook ads to me is not necessarily as a photographer where I would say, hey, that's the number one place where you need to be spending your time. There's a lot of other things that you could do, I think, to make your money go further and to be more effective.
That's great to know. So let's talk a little bit about, just before we, start taking some questions from people, what made you want to pivot into education? Like, what are you doing right now? And like, what made that like spark of like, I want to help other photographers?
Well, I've always been a helper of sorts. When I was in college, when I was out of college, I started a voice studio because I was helping people learn how to sing. I've always volunteered um, in a large degree in some areas, whether that be a church or other things. Like kind of, I think that helper attitude. Also, I have a really big passion for children, and it really pained me to see women working so hard to put food on the table or help their family out or that type of thing with beautiful, beautiful images, but they weren't being compensated fairly for their time. And because I think you have a mindset when it comes to women, especially of like if they didn't go to school or they didn't get that education or that type of thing, or they grew up in a certain environment, it takes us a little while to come around to the fact that what we do and what we put out into the world really has tangible value. And when we're providing memories for other people, that is something that is worth charging for. And then it gets into a little bit of a bigger topic of everybody is subjective about what's a lot of money, like what's a big sale. So if I said you said had a $4,000 sale, that's a decent sale for me. I will take one of those every single day. I have no problem with that. Some people be like, oh, that's not very good. Like that's like a low sale for me. And other people literally are sitting on the last sideline saying, I cannot fathom how much money that is. Like to them, that's a used car or that type of thing. So you have all these different ideas about money that come into play when it comes to business. So for me, education was kind of just like wanting to open people's eyes and say there's so much more available to you if you just look outside your comfort zone. If you just open the blinds a little bit and you look outside of where you are, look at the possibilities that can happen for you.
Yeah, being a part of those groups and stuff, just seeing how people's lives completely changed by just turning on a switch, saying, "Hey, you can do something a little bit different and find more value, not in just yourself, but your work itself." It's been crazy to see. I'll see some people are like, "Well, I only do turn and burn and $250." I'm like, "You are so much more valuable than that." And then you have to change their mindset, and next thing you know, they're talking about, "Oh, I did this one for 3,500. I can't believe it." That's what you want to see, right?
Yeah, that's what you want to see. Absolutely, absolutely. And it's fun to watch those light bulbs go off. And I actually enjoyed the journey of pulling people out of that, of being like, hey, try this, just try it, just see what happens. Everything's an experiment. I'm a firm believer that if you want to change anything in your business, in your life, you have to change and you have to think differently about it. It's not gonna change by itself. So if you have the courage, which is a lot of what this comes down to, if you have the courage to make those changes, it's amazing. It's amazing what can happen.
Yeah, absolutely. So before we get to asking questions, tell us what you're doing right now. Like, what are you doing to help photographers, and where can they see you? If you're going to be at any events coming up in the future, let us know about that, and then we'll start answering some questions.
Yeah, I am. I'm not scheduled to speak or do anything for next year. I'm working out some calendar things with some people to see if the speaking and that type of thing it's taking a little bit longer to get that off the ground. I think a lot of people are still uneasy about live events, like how are we doing this? But just as a normal attender, I'm going to be at Imaging this year in January at National Harbor. If you are not scheduled to come to Imaging, please come. PPA is a wonderful organization, and I know PhotoBiz will be there. I'm just going to be there. So if you see me, please come up and say hello. I would love to talk to everybody. And then as far as where you can find me, I'm going to be most active on my Instagram, which is thedoriehowell.com. And I do a variety of things there. And like I said, I do send out a newsletter every Tuesday. And right now, my main offering is that if you want to work with someone one-on-one, I'm available and willing to do that. I think that over the past few years, the idea of the course mentality, I can get everything from a course, I can get everything from a group coaching call and that type of thing. I think there's a place for that, but I also believe that every once in a while, every professional athlete has a coach. Every performer has someone that they go to for one-on-one help and specific help with their business. And I still believe that people really, really need that. So I am available for that if people are interested.
Fabulous. That's great. And I got five, what are your five favorite things right now?
Oh, my five favorite things. I'm going to be a little cliche and say my new phone
Yes.
is one of my new favorite things. I am a firm believer in lipstick and makeup. I love it, love it so much. So I got some new things. Total side note, this big semi-annual Sephora sale was this past week. So I got some really, really great stuff at Sephora. And Charlotte Tilbury came out with this lip balm for Pillow Talk, which is fabulous. I wear it all the time. So that's my two favorite things. I love, after the pandemic, and actually a little bit before the pandemic, we started going to a new church. I love my new church. They're fabulous. Grace Covenant and Chantilly, they're great, great people. Let's see, that's three things. Five things that are my favorite things right now. Oh, I'm getting a new bathroom put in my house right now, getting a master bathroom remodel. So I'm actually surprised you're not hearing the guys tromping back and forth behind me. And that is going to be one of my absolute favorite things ever. And I just, there's so many things that I love. I just love life. I love talking to people, and that's just one of my favorite things, is just being able to connect with others.
Well, that's fantastic. Thank you, Dorie. And yeah, we're going to open it up for some questions. If you have any questions, go ahead and unmute and ask away.
Yeah. I want to address Connie's comment above. I did a blog post yesterday in the metropolitan area here. The companies are popping up where they're offering very low budget sessions for like $15 for a digital file, or a 3.5 hour newborn session for $350 with 8 images. And I wanted to see what that was about. So I interviewed. I went and I applied and I interviewed and I wrote a blog post about it. And I think that it's something that, everybody's anxious for business, but I'm like, how does this really work?
Okay.
So I wrote a blog. I'll pop it in so you guys can take a look at it. But
yeah,
it was just something I'm like, okay, let me see how this is all going to work. And that's what Connie's referencing to in the comment that she wrote. Put that in here.
Yeah, that sounds very intriguing. Yeah, I'd love to read that.
Yeah, there you go. Hi, Jennifer. How are you? Hi, Jill. Hi, Rebecca. I see some familiar faces.
I actually have a question, if I may.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
All right. So as far as we have to pivot over and do some video on Instagram, I have the hardest time coming up with content for that. Do you have any, quick tip on how to, work through our brains to come up with some good ideas?
So let me tell you what I do. Okay. So I go into my Instagram account and I go to explore and I find a reel, and then you're like in the reel section. So it's going to take you to a whole bunch of reels. Okay. So I'll just go through, here's somebody getting married. And then I look at the bottom to see the audio that they're using. And then if it has an arrow next to it, like, I don't know if you guys can, if that'll focus in, see how there's that little extra right there in that corner. That means that's a trending audio. So you want to try and use trending audios because the algorithm is putting out those videos further. So I'll click on that and then it'll pull up all the videos that are using that sound. Okay. So it shows you the original one. And then you can go through and scroll through and see. So I look through a lot of those things for inspiration. And then say I want to use it, but I don't want to use it right this very minute. Like I might be waiting for my daughter to cheer and I can't like use it right away. I just hit save save audio right at the top, and it puts it in my saved folder, and it saves it on my phone and on my iPad so I can access it from either place. And then I just kind of get ideas. And then also what I do is I follow a lot of people on my Instagram that aren't necessarily my niche, but they might be coaches in other niches. They might be multi-level marketing coaches, they might be video coaches, they might be in another area. And I really do follow them for specifically for ideas for things. I have my own creative ideas that I come up with for different things, but I will follow other people for those ideas. So hopefully that would help. And then also just keep in mind, like, well, isn't Reels just like TikTok? Like, how does that work? Well, if you're on TikTok, which I am kind of guilty of spending too much time scrolling through TikTok videos. The way that works is if you find something that's trending on TikTok, understand that probably in about 2 weeks, it's going to start trending on Instagram. So you can get those, you can get fresh ideas from TikTok as well. And there's a lot of photographers on TikTok. Do I think that getting people's attention through Reels is going to start getting harder and harder because now everybody's like, oh, I'll go on my Instagram, I'll just do Reels? Yes, I do. So that when you're doing them, try and think a little bit differently, approach an idea from a different perspective. You don't always have to show your face. I did a reel one time with a trending song that literally was me just posting. I had a folio box of some 8x10 images, and the sound was, I want to see the baby. So I had that sound in the background, and I'm just throwing down 8x10s that I have with this folio box of the baby. And that reel alone, just that, it took literally like 10 minutes to put together. That reel got shown to almost 5,000 people.
Wow, that's great.
So it doesn't have to be complicated. In fact, I had to giggle because it was so, like, I was trying to do it one-handed. You can see my toes in the bottom of the screen carefully. It's not the best quality at all. And understand that when you're new at something like Reels or trying something new on social media, the first time you do it, it's going to feel awkward. It's not going to be perfect or anything like that. But the more you do them, the more polished they will become.
And talking with some of the marketing people from TikTok, just for our own stuff, the more authentic it feels, the more real it feels to that platform. So it doesn't have to be super polished. The rough edgeness of it actually makes it feel like purposed for that platform. So
Absolutely.
It doesn't have to be a Hollywood show.
No. Doesn't have to be perfect. And I, like, they say to put a cover photo on all your reels. I put a cover photo on maybe half of my reels. And then what I use is I'll use like for my feed, you can pick like a snip from the video. I use the one with the funniest face or like me in a really weird expression to do something a little bit different. Connie, that's a great idea. You could do that with flipping through an album. Just find a sound that works and just flip through an album. You know, show me the baby. Okay, here we go. Here's the images of the baby, or the, you know, whatever would work. So I spend probably about a good hour to an hour and a half a week. And I like doing it, so it doesn't really feel like work. Just kind of doing some market research of what's trending, what's not trending, what I like, what I could use for my niche, and that type of thing.
Yeah, I've seen maybe one time, you know, for like a wedding photographer, they had the bride not dressed yet, and they did kind of the Wonder Woman spin, and then you cut, and then she's in the dress spinning, and that just, wow, it's like the reveal, the before and after effect of it all, and people love that type of stuff.
People love behind the scenes. Like Jennifer, you were doing some behind the scenes stuff with your stuff. People love that. Jill said one of the highest performers behind the scenes gave mom the cell phone while you took the daughter's picture and told her to walk around. Yeah, I probably won't do it with this new camera. Oh, my lights got a little off.
Sun's coming.
Yeah, but probably with my old camera, I used to hand my old camera to kids all the time and say, hey, take a picture of me taking a picture. And then if it was a boy, like around 7 or 9 years old, they always think about it. I said, listen, don't take a picture of my butt. And they thought that was hysterical. And they would take pictures, and I would get some good behind the scenes pictures. You don't need to bring a behind the scenes person with you for these things. And then if you want to know how to put those videos together, if you get that handout that I did above, I explained it all. But I use an app called InShot to put videos together. You get that handout.
There we go.
There we go. I use an app called the InShot. And I think there's a free version, and maybe there's like a version you can get for $15 a year or something, but it's super easy. And you can do all sorts of things in these apps.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible, all the stuff that's out there. What's
Yeah.
it called again?
It's called InShot. I'll put it in the comments. It looks like the icon looks like this. It kind of looks like the Instagram one. So I have focus.
There we go.
Yeah, Instagram, Twitter, then InShot. It's right there. Okay, so Jill, are slideshows still images produced into a video? Absolutely. In fact, that's what I suggest most photographers do, especially when they're kind of tiptoeing into this.
Yeah.
Take some images from a session that you shot, put them into InShot, because that will create a video for it. You can do 5 videos, you can play with the timing, do that, put it into Instagram, find a song that you want to go with it, and post it as a reel.
Boom, done.
And once you get the hang of that, it sounds like a lot of steps, but really the hardest part would be getting your images like on your phone, like putting them into Drive. I use Drive to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very cool. Do we have any more questions?
You guys are easy.
I know, we could go all day. Unfortunately, I can't, but.
Yeah. Right?
Well, I want to say thank you very much, Dorie, for coming today. Giving us your expertise, what's going on with everything in the social media world, everything that you're doing to help educate other photographers. I think you have some great content there. I can't wait to read about that one article that you posted. So I look forward to that. And hopefully I'll see you at Imaging.
I hope so. If you guys see me there, please come say hello. It would be great.
I'm planning to be there. I'll look for you.
All right. Thanks, Connie. That'd be wonderful. Thank you so much. Thanks, Jeremy. I always appreciate the chat.
Yeah, thank you. And please take a look at all the content that we got on our blog, .photobiz.com, to stay up to date with all these Apple iOS changes, anything that's happening. And if you're a PhotoBiz client, there's a way that you can see all the content that we got going out, all the new tools and resources there. There's also, if you're not a PhotoBiz client, but you're interested in being one, we actually have some promos coming out for Black Friday. So you can use Fall 50 at checkout for an annual account, and you'll save 50% on your first year. So it's a great way to get online, saving a lot of money right ahead. That's what we want. We want to be able to help people, and you have access directly with our support team that you can call anytime, and we have a live chat function right away. So you're not doing this all alone and solo. We're here to help you.
No, I love PhotoBiz. I don't know how long I've had my account with you guys, but it's been a while and it's been great. And total side note, I'm having PhotoBiz do my SEO now too. So if you're not familiar with that, you might want to check that out.
Absolutely. If you don't know anything about all the pro services we have a whole levy of pro services, from designing it for you to actually helping you with the SEO optimization. And Dorie's getting that help because SEO is a whole different animal. And we'll probably be doing some more webinars about that in the future as well. So please check out all the content we got going on. And again, if you're interested in being a PhotoBiz customer or want some of those pro services, reach out to our team. We are here to help.
All right. Kathy, I don't know, Jeremy, are you gonna send that out in an email?
Yes, I'll have some information roll out later. This video will also be available for everyone at the end as well, so they can always watch this if they missed anything.
Great. Okay.
All right.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye, everyone. Thank you for joining us.